we discovered that was 30+% of the time, like a third of the bookkeeper's time is spent asking for documents and getting them and managing them and working through them. And over 50% of the advisor and client relationship and interactions were administrative. So it was eye-opening that we weren't the only ones with this issue. So the conclusion there is that we built Hubdoc as a way to automate and streamline these administrative tasks so that the bookkeepers, the advisors, can do more advising.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's guest is the co-founder of Hubdoc. They are a software company in Toronto that is helping automate small business accounting and bookkeeping. And I know that a lot of the listeners today are going to be huge fans of this product already. It is an amazing service that saves a heck of a lot of time, a heck of a lot of headaches. I actually use it. I actually love it. And I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have it because of the time it saves me and it's an incredible product. So I'm so excited to have Jamie Shulman on the show today. And I think he is an incredibly switched on entrepreneur that is helping transform an industry and make it a heck of a lot more powerful and interesting. So Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So Hubdoc, Jamie, how the heck did you come up with that idea? How did you get this product into the market?
Yeah, it's kind of a fun story in a way, and maybe I'll start with some very quick background. And that is, I actually used to be an attorney. I was a lawyer practicing in Toronto and then in San Francisco. This is in the late 90s, and I was very interested in technology. And after I left the practice of law, in 2002, I went into a software business and fell in love with software. And after I got married and had a couple of kids out in San Francisco, my wife and I moved back to Toronto, which is where we're both from. And we, because our families were there. And I caught up with an old grade school friend of mine, Jamie McDonald, and he had been living in Seattle for a number of years and moved back for the same reason. He had a Canadian wife and he's Canadian. And so we thought, why don't we start a business together? And we did. And we started a software business. This is before Hubdoc. And we started it in 2007. And I mentioned this story because we grew quite quickly, that business, ultimately to about, 25, 30 employees. And we sold the business in 2010. We didn't build it to sell it, but it made sense. And there was a great offer at the time. So it was after that we thought, well, let's do that again. What pain points are out there? What other problems need solving? And we both immediately thought of bookkeeping because we found the experience of getting our books done with that first business that we built together incredibly frustrating. It was a lot of back and forth administrative work with our accountant. I'm going to call it accountant and bookkeeper. There were two firms, two different people. Frankly, it was very frustrating, Michael, for our bookkeeper and our accountant as well, dealing with us. So it was a lot of back and forth of questions. Hey guys, we need your bank statements. We need to know what that check was for. What did you buy at Staples? And we need this data. So there's a lot of back and forth of questions, very administrative, but also, we would typically then say on what's today? Today is the 24th. So we would say to our bookkeeper, hey, it's the 24th. Are our books done yet? And they'd say, well, they're not done because you haven't provided us certain documents and answers to questions. So it was a frustrating relationship and one where we kind of had limited visibility into our business. And our relationship was very administrative, shuttling documents and answering questions. So as we thought more about the problem, Jamie and I, and dug deeper and did more kind of due diligence on it, we realized just how much time was spent on administrative tasks for all small businesses with their bookkeepers. It's consistent across the board that we discovered that was 30+% of the time, like a third of the bookkeeper's time is spent asking for documents and getting them and managing them and working through them. And over 50% of the advisor and client relationship and interactions were administrative. So it was eye-opening that we weren't the only ones with this issue. So the conclusion there is that we built Hubdoc as a way to automate and streamline these administrative tasks so that the bookkeepers, the advisors, can do more advising. I've always thought of it when people talk about advisors, or Intuit talks of pro advisors. There's the word advisor is in there, and yet it seemed like a lot of the bookkeepers and accountants are being administrators as opposed to advising. So Hubdoc, by eliminating all the administrative work, allows the bookkeepers to advise and be more of a trusted advisor to their clients. So that's the background of where we started it. I don't know if that's helpful, but it really was just scratching an itch and solving a problem that we had that a lot of people did as well.
Well, it's a really cool story because it's their customer. So listeners right now, you are one of their customers. And you said, hey, I know I'm a pain in the butt for you. And, you probably don't want to deal with all of that. And it's a pain in the butt for me. And I'm going to go and solve this issue. So you're solving a massive issue for thousands and thousands of people on both sides. It's not just hey, let's help the bookkeepers win. This helps entrepreneurs, small business owners win, because the time that's used in the past to organize documents and get information and the back and forth emails and all of that, that is a total waste of time. And you've put that time back in the hands of all of these people on both sides. I love it. It's like the win-win-win approach. Your customers win, their customers win, and you win. That's why people just absolutely love your company.
Well, it's kind of you to say that. We are feeling good about the feedback we're getting. For what it's worth, we've been at it for, I guess we launched the product. We launched about 4 years ago, the company, but we actually launched the product in its current form 3 years ago. And we're now working with thousands of firms and thousands of firms, bookkeeping firms and accounting firms, are paying us, and behind them are thousands of clients. And maybe it's worth saying in just a minute or two, just what we do.
Let's do that.
Just to actually, lay out, what our product actually does. So what we do is we're automating the collection and management of the source documents. And so we will automatically fetch, we call it fetching, automatically fetch the client's source documents. And whether it's bank statements or key invoices or receipts or bills or payroll reports, we will gather them automatically. And we do that by actually using the client's credentials, and the client will enter the credentials into Hubdoc, or often it's the advisor now will have these credentials. And we will, with software, go out and fetch them, both historical documents and ongoing. Every night we look for new documents. And if they're there on a bank's website or a vendor's website, like the telco or software vendors, or as I said, payroll vendors, we'll pull those documents as they're available on those websites. And then we also give an ability to upload documents that aren't available online, like your typical restaurant receipt. You can upload that using our mobile app or by emailing it in. Or we have an exciting deal with Fujitsu out of Japan to be announced in the next few weeks, where you can one button press on a Fujitsu ScanSnap scanner and it'll come right into Hubdoc. But the true magic is not only the auto collection of the documents, but we actually automatically extract the data from them. So whether it's that receipt that you've scanned and uploaded into Hubdoc, or whether it's a bill we've auto fetched, we're actually extracting the key data out of it, things like vendor, date, amount, due date, and invoice number, et cetera. And then with that, we auto create the entries in your GL, whether it's QuickBooks or Xero or Intact or et cetera, Sage. So it's both the auto collection of the documents, the auto extraction of the data, and then we actually create the entries in your accounting system. So you're not having to ask for documents ever again. You're not having to do any data entry ever again, and you end up with auto-proof books because we have these documents automatically. So that's what we do, and it seems to be resonating.
It's incredibly resonating for me, and I know we work with hundreds of bookkeeping firms in North America, and everybody that we've either shown this to or the people that are already using it, they absolutely love it. And just hearing you speak about it, we use it, and it does such a great job. And I haven't even implemented some of those latter things that you're talking about. For me, Jamie, just to tell you how I use it and what I love about it, I think as a use case, every single account that I have, I remember when we spoke, because we spoke, I think, really close to when you guys launched the product, because I've been using it for a long time. And I loaded everything up, And before, I used to have to go and collect all of these banks don't make it easy to get documents. It's like painful to get all the documents out of the bank. I got to rename them. They're all ugly looking. And before, I used to have to go through, and I have a lot of accounts, and I'd have to go through all of that, get it all over to the bookkeeper, and then it's sitting in a file or a Dropbox or something like that. Once I entered all that information in, it's been like 3 years. I think I've had to go in once to change a password and fix up something once or twice because it was my fault. I changed my password in my bank, and it's just all there. It's all there. I switched bookkeepers, and she's like, where's all your files? And she needed them from years ago. It's like, oh, just search right here. Boom. It instantly came up. It was all available, plus things like utilities, all these things that as a small business owner, it's not even there. I can't even remember what it used to be like really in terms of trying to sort through all of that information. And then what that's great for me is that if my bookkeeper brought that to me as a solution, I would have been like, I'm going to name my first child after that bookkeeper if they would have brought that to me. Like you, I constantly think about you, Jamie. I'm like, I love this product. This is like every single time I got to go find a document, I'm like, I love Hubdoc. I love Jamie. Thank you, Jamie. And so I think for the opportunity here is for bookkeepers because here's the deal, right? A lot of those things that you're talking about, getting it working with QuickBooks and keeping it running, that's bookkeeper magic, okay? I don't know how to do that. I don't have the time to figure that stuff out. I'm very technical, but yet it's the merging of accounting practices and bookkeeping practices and technology. And I might be good at technology, but I'm not a bookkeeper. So you need the guide to take all those wonderful forces and bring them together. And that's the opportunity for bookkeepers. For the listeners here, you got to learn this technology. And I know, Jamie, you're going to tell us about how they can learn about it. And you've got all sorts of great videos and training things and all that good stuff. But what I want to really get clear here, this is an opportunity to really be the advisor to help your customers save time, become more efficient, get the information into their systems more rapidly so they can make better business decisions based on what's going on in their business. And your typical business owner is not going to be able to figure all of that out. And so you want to be the one that brings us to them. That's an opportunity for leadership with technology. I know I may be going off a little bit here, but I just have to say it's a really big opportunity for the listeners to be leaders in their businesses with their customers.
That's a great point. I mean, that's an absolutely fantastic point because we are finding that of these thousands of accountants and bookkeepers that are paying for Hubdoc, it's more than a majority, and it's more like most, and it might be even close to 90% actually drive the usage of Hubdoc for their client. They pay for the Hubdoc account for them. Not that they have to, but they do. And because they end up looking like incredibly savvy advisors by introducing tools like ours. And there are other tools out there too, but I think there's something about introducing to a client a tool that can help make their life easier that it builds trust and builds expertise, and it's much appreciated by the clients. It's true. And because it doesn't exist, like the idea, as you said, clients will go out and have to go get these documents themselves, whether it's their Verizon bill or their bank statement. And now the fact that they don't have to, they don't even know that this is a possibility. So it's a good opportunity for the advisors to introduce them to such automation. So that's a great point that you're making.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of levels to it where it becomes just a great repository and searchable repository for all of the records. So, I mean, I'm not going to do it justice by explaining how it works and all that good stuff. You really got to see it to believe it. And, even when it was 3 years ago and I talked about it with people and they say, oh, well, these things exist. And you know what? There's a reason why people are just really loving it and using it and you're growing so rapidly is that it does a lot of things that other products don't do. And it makes life easy and it's really easy to use.
I just had one thought I thought I'd add, which is there are times when I think bookkeepers out there might find, I know I would, find the world a bit overwhelming. Like, oh, there's so many applications and each application's got so much going on. And you were even mentioning there that you seem to love Hubdoc, which is great, but you don't even use all of it. And that, is totally fine. And so I was just going to make the one point that we do see people that just have, as an example, just have Hubdoc fetch their bank statements. And with it come their checks and their deposit images and all that. And that's all they do. And so it doesn't matter to us, and it just doesn't matter generally at which insertion point, like when they come on the journey towards automation. If they just want to start with having us fetch bank statements, that's magical itself. But there's more coming. And as an example, as I said, you can send in other documents, and you can also have us auto-create entries in your accounting system. And ultimately, as you can imagine, with machine learning and other technology coming, we will soon offer benchmarking and all sorts of other insights that you can deliver to your client because of the data that we're gathering. But you don't need to do it all at once. It can be baby steps and just start with the fetching of the bank statements. We've made the pricing in a way where it's easy and affordable and profitable to adopt even, just parts of the product. So I want to make sure it doesn't sound overly complicated, because it isn't.
It is not. It is not overly complicated. I'm glad you said that, because sometimes I can overstate I don't want people to think that it's difficult to use. I really want to say that as a bookkeeper, you're going to come in here and it's going to be easy peasy. For me, it was easy peasy to get it all set up as a business owner, easy to set up, and I love the product. And for me, just having it go and fetch all of those pieces is worth its weight in gold. And that in itself is, you log into your bank account, you can set this thing up. So it's why people love it, is that once they start using it, it changes the way they do business. And so it's awesome. And if you aren't using it, you're going to find that out really quickly when you go and check it out. So let's talk a little bit about what you've seen, because you've worked with a lot of these. You guys really understand this market and you understand your users. Let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing around how this is helping bookkeepers from a mindset perspective grow their business.
Yeah, so much. And I think you alluded to it earlier. There's a real continuum. We refer to it sometimes as a workflow adoption curve, which sounds like a lot of big words, but really, automating and streamlining and being more efficient with one's workflows, like how to, in our case, documents come in and how does data flow in and how does the work get done and clients get their financials. There are different stages of that adoption curve of technology. So one thing we are seeing is it's a journey, this idea of adopting technology and becoming more efficient with your workflow, with your staff, with your firm. And so some of them, it's just inspiring to see how many different ways people are scaling their practice. And frankly, how much, and I'm talking about today, it's call it early 2017, the way that people are willing to share information and their stories of how they're doing. It's a very giving community, because frankly, it's still quite early. There's huge opportunity in this world of kind of more efficient cloud bookkeeping. And so it's a giving community. So we learn ourselves as we talk to more and more bookkeepers, but also you can learn from others. So those who are listening to this podcast, as a fun example, and I just thought of this now, I hope it isn't inappropriate, but we had a blog post yesterday of the top 50 cloud accounting or bookkeeping firms in North America in 2016, and we launched it yesterday. So there are 50 names on our website on that blog post. If you reached out to any of them, people would be happy to talk and share their stories. The types of things we're hearing in lessons we're learning is that people are out there learning themselves. As you said earlier, videos like YouTube has webinars and their posts and their blog posts. There's a ton of information out there across companies, and often it is places like YouTube, where you can learn a lot of what people are doing. Some things are like the hiring is critical. I know you guys at Pure Bookkeeping focus on this, helping people with this. Hiring the right people at the right time is critical, and it's tricky and it's hard. It's not necessarily easy. But one role that we hear a lot of successful scaling firms are hiring is a technology operations person. I'm going to call it a technology operations leader. But that would be someone that actually focuses. It sounds maybe interesting to say, but is to focus in on setting up the foundation for workflows within the firm. A bit of a mouthful, it sounds like, but people actually do this. And that is to set up which technology to use and then standardizing around them. It's something I know you and I have talked a little bit about that it's something that isn't necessarily focused on enough, but is absolutely critical. So that would be one, is the hiring, and in particular people like a technology operations person, which wouldn't be something someone would necessarily think about. And the second thing I'd point to is standardizing. Traditionally, bookkeepers and accountants, and I say traditionally, meaning it's been the way for a while, where a client comes in, they're using Sage 50. Well, that's what they're using. That's what you're going to serve them with. Or they're using Xero, and that's what you're going to use. And so I talked to many bookkeeping firms that use 8 different accounting software packages because that's what their clients are using, or they have 20 different apps that they're using because their clients introduce them to them. I think the concept of standardizing, I know it's sometimes hard to do that, but to standardize around certain technologies or workflows is valuable and critical as you look to scale. It might mean over time doing more sales and marketing and being able to choose the right clients so that you can actually have them using all the same standardized technologies, and maybe have certain clients move on that maybe aren't willing to adopt because they're focused on paper or not using technologies or not standardizing. Those are the sorts of things that come to mind. A, hiring the right people at the right time. B, standardizing, and then C, kind of thinking about which clients work for you, and that can take time. But those are some of the things that we see the scaling firms doing. And then I think the last thing that jumps into my head is really thinking about how to value your services. I say to people over and over again, for clients to get their books done in a new age way, which is kind of digital documents, it's automated, it's almost like real-time financials with a fixed monthly accounting cost, and let's call it for $10,000 a year, like I'm going to say $800 a month. I'm just making that. I mean, that should be a no-brainer for any business of any decent size, whether it's a restaurant or a software company or a doctor's office or whatever. You can't get a person to come in a couple days a week for anything remotely like that. So sometimes you hear people that charge $100 a month for their bookkeeping, and it just seems to me that if they were really focusing on the value they're delivering, which is this real-time financials, visibility, how they're doing, being prepared to file tax returns and an audit, all that's worth significantly more than $100 a month. So there'd be also that element of focusing in on where the value is in their services they offer and how to price it accordingly.
Those are fantastic suggestions, Jamie. And I think your experience seeing the top people, the most successful people, I mean, you guys get to see that through the data, through your user, through the usage. So you really switched on in terms of what's working. And I really want to highlight those that you've said that I think are fantastic. And that one that really stood out for me that I don't think a lot of people talk about is that standardization is becoming as efficient as possible as you can. If you're trying to be an expert in all software systems, there's time. I mean, each one to be an expert in something requires time and knowledge and upkeep and all of that. So if you're trying to be an expert and use all these different tools, you just spread yourself thin. And I remember working in large organizations and watching with admiration as it's like, you know what, we're only going to use this one computer. Every single employee is going to have the exact same computer. And I remember thinking, wow, what a great idea, right? It's like you learn that computer, you need a part for that computer, you need to, figure out something that, I mean, if you think about all the people that have to touch that computer and work with that computer and keep that computer working, if you had multiple systems, I mean, you're 10xing or 100xing the cost to run that. And that's just one example. And so small business, I think, sometimes thinks, well, we're small, we can do this, we can, figure this out. And what you don't see is the long-term implications of those things. And so your second point of doing that marketing and finding, more customers so you can pick wisely is hugely, hugely important. So find the customers, make choices. What programs do you like to use? Keep it narrow, and then find customers or recommend to customers. And if they want to go another way, listen, send them down the street to the person that's an expert in that other software solution. So fantastic recommendations, Jamie. And I'm really liking where things are going with Hubdoc and with your community that you're building. It's really a commitment to efficiency and continuous improvement.
Yeah, and I think you highlighted it for me there. I think that it's worth saying, and maybe it's obvious to some, and that is that software. I think this would be irrefutable. Software is going to the cloud. SaaS software is not going away, and that idea of, and by SaaS software I mean subscription, kind of monthly service, is how software is going to be delivered going forward. And in a world where there's a lot of wonderful things of software by not being desktop and being in the cloud and being a service subscription. There are a lot of wonderful aspects of that. Things like you can stop using it if you want to. It keeps getting better and everyone gets access to that upgrade. There's no new CD you need to get. So there's a lot of great value in having software delivered that way. One of the drawbacks, or maybe one of the realities of it, is you have to stay up to date. So in Hubdoc, or maybe it's QBO or it's Xero, or whatever the software is, it continues to improve, which is wonderful, but it means you actually need to be up to date. So that's one of the reasons why in the future, you can't just be an expert at this accounting software desktop, because that's what you do and you know it well. Because even if you're just a QuickBooks person, for example, it's all now QBO. You're going to have to be up to date on all the improvements that they're delivering, which they are in an ongoing way. One last thing I'd say, Michael, and that is, when we first started this, as I mentioned at the start, even just getting our bank reconciliations done was really challenging. We had to get the bank statements to the bookkeeper, a bunch of receipts and invoices and bills and all that. And then they would reconcile them against the bank statement. They'd reconcile all these documents. We basically automate bank reconciliation now. So we'll auto-fetch those bank statements. We auto-fetch all these documents, the receipts, bills, invoices, et cetera. And then they get auto-matched against your bank feed in your accounting system. So that alone, is leaps and bounds from the experience traditionally of a bunch of paper, a bunch of work getting documents and reading them and all that. It's all done now basically automatically. So, and there's more to come. So it's an exciting time, despite that it sounds like there's a lot going on.
I'm a big supporter of SaaS, that software as a service, online, whatever we want to call it. And I just said to a prospect that was looking at the pure bookkeeping system yesterday, I said, well, listen, we have desktop, we service desktop, we have standard operating procedures for desktop solutions, but it's not going to be that far in the future where those will be phased out. It's just the way things are going. And whilst I'm not going to say that I know when that's happening, but if we were talking 3 years ago, we'd have a lot of pushback around QBO. I was talking to people, QBO, it's not as good, it's not as fast. Those conversations, I don't have those anymore. They're very rare. People are like, yeah, no, I like it. It's not as, there's a few things that I don't like, but they're actually embracing the community, the industry, are embracing it. And so this is a real great opportunity. And I want to sort of hedge, or we could probably keep on talking for a lot longer, but I know you're tight on time, and the show, usually we have the show be about 30 minutes or so. There's a lot that we've talked about. There's lots there. There's a real easy way to get started. How can people dip their toe into the Hubdoc pool and feel how great it is? What's the best way to get started, Jamie?
Oh, thanks. So I would say this. The first thing I would say is when we started this from day one, we're big believers, Jamie and I, in people and relationships. And so everything that we've built that someone might like in Hubdoc is we got the idea from the advisors, the bookkeepers, and the accountants themselves. And then the second thing I'd say is, for us, customer service is absolutely everything, period. And it has to be world class. So we pride ourselves in being transparent and responsive and respectful to our prospects, our customers. And one example of believing in people and the customer service is we have a partner program for any accountant and bookkeeper out there who's building a firm, whether they're just one person with one client today or several staff with many clients. We give free, lifetime free accounts for the accountant or bookkeeper to use on their practice, at home, however they want, so they can just see how it works, get comfortable with it, because we don't want anyone to start using Hubdoc, or they shouldn't do this with any software, with a client until they're comfortable with it. So we give this, part of our partner program is this free account for life for the advisor. And so if they came to hubdoc.com, which is just hubdoc.com, there's a sign up button. And if they click on that, and there's a button where you say, I'm building an accounting or bookkeeping firm. I think that's what it says, or I have clients. Click that button, and then it goes through our program, and you'll get this free VIP lifetime free account. And then there'll be all sorts of other goodies like, white glove service and wholesale pricing, and we help with workflows, and we give all sorts of other assistance. But that's the best way, is just to come right to our website. We also have weekly webinars, which you can find on our website. We'll do one-on-one or group demos, but the best way would just be to come to our website and sign up. And while you're there, sign up for the blog and the newsletter, and just get on our radar. That would be ideal.
They're probably thinking it's too good to be true. You're going to go to Hubdoc. Yeah. You're going to get a free lifetime access to the program. It's unbelievable. It's a no-brainer. And so we'll also put a link on our website and this podcast to get there really, really quickly. and with the notes around selecting the partner and getting the VIP. So listeners, it's fantastic. I want to, Jamie, give you an opportunity to share anything else that's going on or any events that are coming up that you'd like our listeners to know about or to check out. And we can certainly post those as well on our site. But is there anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, gosh. I'm just trying to think. I mean, today we're fully launched in the United States, Canada, and Australia, and we'll be launching elsewhere soon. We have, we're at the typical conferences you'd expect, the QuickBooks Zero and other conferences. And we have weekly webinars. But no, I would say coming to our site would be the place to start. And we just love to work with you. And even if it isn't the right time, we'll help you figure out how to scale your practice and work with other technologies. We think it's it's an ecosystem here, and we're trying to give back as well as help with Hubdoc. So I don't have anything more than that. But thank you.
Great. I use it. I'm a lover. I, just absolutely love what you guys are doing. I did when I first saw it, and I've had 3 years using it. So you have my total endorsement. And I mean, it's free. It's a lifetime. Go check it out. Just your philosophy of running an organization is fantastic, Jamie. I'm really curious, though, when you mentioned Australia, when did you launch fully in Australia?
Yeah, my one quick thing to say is the free lifetime account is for the accountants or bookkeepers and their colleagues at their firm. Ultimately, if they're using it with clients, that's where they pay. I didn't want to create an illusion no one would think it's a free product. We launched in Australia. What are we in now? January. I guess it was the middle of the fall, like in September, October.
It's great news.
So we went to XeroCon. I guess it felt like it was in August. Maybe it was September. And then since then, and there's just an incredible community of cloud bookkeepers and accountants there that are just awesome in terms of what they've been doing the last few years. I don't think anyone would argue that they're ahead of North America in terms of technology, and North America is catching up. But we're very excited there. So we now have a presence there in a little mini office in Sydney. That's
super exciting. We have massive listenership down in Australia, and so listeners in Australia, if you just haven't heard of Hubdoc yet, this is your opportunity. And so this is great. Well, that's excellent, Jamie. And certainly I'm sure lots of people will be checking it out. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. We'll have a nice wild ride over the next few years.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.